I don't think the game's over.
Welcome to Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckhalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, the website, clockersports.com, and the email address is clockersports@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter, the pod on Twitter, at 30spod. That's the number 30spod. On Facebook as well, 30spod, 30spod, the number 3, the word zeros, and pod. Man, it is, we're almost on the verge of the next NBA season, and we have some important dates coming up within the next couple of weeks here. We've got training camp starting, but we're going to get into that in a second because we have to talk about what just happened in Week 12 and what's continuing to happen in Week 12. And our first story is the fact that the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers game has been moved now to Wednesday afternoon. It's a matinee affair from what was supposed to be Thursday night's primetime headliner on Thanksgiving turns into a Wednesday night. Almost a week later, they're playing this game, and they are trying their damnedest to not force it to be postponed, or to be canceled because they don't have any more days. They don't want to expand the season any longer. A lot of people are complaining because they have been pushing this game back and allowing for more time for Ravens players to get healthy, though the Broncos just got done finishing a game, Denver did, without a quarterback on the roster. They had Kendall Hinton playing quarterback. He was a college quarterback, but he's been practicing as a slot receiver. Actually moved to slot receiver in college his final season. So this has been just a complete mess from top to bottom. This is not something that I think, this all started with a COVID outbreak from a staffer brought into the Ravens organization. They're all now, it's spread like wildfire. You've had guys, this game has been pushed back so long, guys who were put on the COVID list are now eligible to become off for the game on Wednesday. That's how long this has been. This is ridiculous. It's also been expected because you got coronavirus going around. You got the NFL bulldozing its way through the rest of the season, something that we've talked about here at length that was going to happen. Like, there's no way the NFL is not gonna keep trying to roll on if they can possibly finish the season. If you have enough people on your team, you're going to run out there. And there was some kind of language built into the CBA that allowed for the Broncos to have to go out there and play and not forfeit whatever. They had their situation earlier on in the season. Pittsburgh has gone through it too, so they're not unfamiliar with this territory. But it's very interesting and a fascinating study for the future reference in case the NFL wants to do some kind of flex scheduling thing going forward. Maybe they start doing something like this. You preserve a game. I don't know, because you rarely would have 2 Thursday night games anyway. But that was a bummer on Thursday, right? To have that go from being the game and to just having it not on the docket at all. Although Thursday was still an interesting night nonetheless. And headlining that one is Will Fuller getting suspended for the rest of the season. Now, he was not alone. Bradley Roby also joined him. They both got suspended for performance-enhancing drugs. 5 games remaining in the season. I believe their suspensions will both extend into next year as well. But what made this so crazy is Fuller on Thanksgiving, if you recall, had that monstrosity of a game, 6 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, not only has the man been incredibly healthy by his standards, because he's had injury issues. He's already at 11 games prior to missing, which is hilarious because I was just about to comment today about how he's having his his healthiest season to date. 11 straight games. Now, he played 11 games last year, but that was it because of injury. And he'll play 11 games this year. Not because of injury, but because he was out here. Now, he released a statement saying that it was because of a supplement that he took and trying to rehab. We've heard that story. I'm not saying it's not true. I just, at the same time, have to look at it through the lens of, these guys have got to do a little bit better job of making sure they're taking care. They're checking out what's being offered to them. You can't be just putting anything in your body like that. This is not something. This is a common occurrence, and it comes, as he said, from trusting a doctor who gave him some bad advice because it ultimately ended up being a substance on the banned list. That's not on the doctor. Like, regardless, I know that that's on you ultimately, because you're the one who signed the contract. You're the one who's so. I understand, and I'm not saying he's lying. I'm not trying to put that out there at all. What I'm saying is, doesn't make it any better. Doesn't change anything. Granted, he took responsibility for the action, but throwing out there that I took a supplement because of a doctor's recommendation doesn't do a damn thing for me. And when I look back and realize that you just weren't there because you didn't fully check out what you were taking, right? You got to be better. You got to be better. Again, he was having a great season, even though the Texans themselves are not, having already fired Bill O'Brien, one of the worst head coach GM combos. That rarely works out, right? Even for the good head coaches, being the GM at the same time rarely works out in a good way. Typically because there's no check for, you got to have checks and balances. It's like the government. 4-7 now for the Texans. I know they did not see that coming this season. Deshaun Watson signing that big deal. It's just there's not much. Will Fuller was being viewed as a number one receiver. Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins in part because he said Will Fuller could be a number one receiver. And now, in the middle of their 4-7 season, they'll have to be without who's been their best playmaker this year. That's a shame. And if let's say you want to be skeptical of his story, then now you have an explanation for why he was healthy and why he's been producing the way that he has been producing, because he's been doing a good job this year. It's been a pretty solid year for Will Fuller. So, oh man, that's tough. And then Roby, damn, like they're not even good in the secondary. What are you taking that you're not even good? That's the other part. I had to check. I didn't even see, and maybe I just overlooked it and didn't catch it, but I haven't seen a statement from Bradley Roby. I would love to hear this, because while he actually hasn't been bad, I shouldn't be, but that secondary hasn't been great. That defense hasn't been great. They've been getting run on. It's been pretty bad. But dude, you gotta, if it's the same thing, that if Bradley Roby comes out and says the doctor thing too, then I might have to call shenanigans, because like, damn, y'all need to get a new team doctor. If he's just out here giving you bans, if that's what it sounds like to me. That's the other part about Will Fuller's story. If it's he said it's a specialist, I believe he said, to go get it. I don't know. Whatever it was, stop taking advice from people who aren't on the team. That's another thing. At least medical, like supplement-wise, what you should and shouldn't be taking. I'm sure the team physician knows what you can and cannot take. That's not good. Oh man, that's a rough one. You hate to see that for a guy who, like I said, was having a pretty solid year. Staying in the AFC South, we had some firings going on. Jaguars fired general manager David Caldwell. They did keep head coach Doug Marrone at the moment. Owner Shad Khan saying that he will give Marrone at least through the end of the season. But as far as Caldwell goes, he wasn't necessarily, the results weren't there. It's a results-oriented business. We've talked about that. Actually wrote about that for Last Word on Pro Football, about the Bears and how this season has been a culmination of all the worst of the most recent eras, and it's just been awful. But back to the Jaguars, this is kind of what he was saying. We're kind of saying the results just aren't there, and so Caldwell's out. I'm not sure what keeping Marrone around necessarily accomplishes, other than saying that it's basically condemnation of his entire staff. There's not even anybody that I feel is worthy of a look in the interim, even though we know that it probably won't be Marrone. Jaguars have no direction. They are on a path that I think my beloved Chicago Bears are also on, and if this is a glimpse into, 2 years, a year or two in the future, this might not be the worst outcome. Now, granted, it's not as soon as I would like, but okay. All right. This is what it has to be, so be it. More relief going on in the NFL. This one, the NFC. The Lions fired general manager Bob Quinn and head coach Matt Patricia. Patricia thought that he was Bill Belichick. I don't care what nobody says. But my man thought that he won 6 rings by himself. That's the air that I got from the writings on him during press conferences, being chastising media members for being late while being late himself. That's not a very Belichickian thing to do. But just the way he came off the players, Darius Slay tweeting out once Patricia got fired that, oh yeah, but I'm the problem. No, it's him. Pretty confident in saying that it was Patricia that was the issue. I don't think that's necessarily controversial at this point. So, he's gone. I'm still left scratching my head as the Jets remain winless. Adam Gase is still employed. Now, if you're tanking for Trevor, okay, I guess Gase is getting the job done. Maybe that's what it is. You just bring him in. Maybe that, you know what? I just answered my own question. Woody Johnson, and I'm not saying this is earth-shattering revelations here, but I mean, damn it, the only explanation is that Woody Johnson saw what Gase did with Miami and saw Miami end up with Tua and said, I want that to happen here. And he said that we're even worse. If they got Tua, we can get the next quote-unquote Joe Burrow. You know how that goes. Won't happen. This is the Jets we're talking about. So go ahead, go get Trevor Lawrence. I'm not sure. I'm a firm believer, and I know that you got Justin Herbert out there pretty much crapping all over this right now. But the 6'6" quarterback and above, which is rare to go above, but 6'6" quarterback is typically where you start seeing your problems. 6'5" is borderline, but it seems like 6'6" is just that guy he's just a little bit too. I don't know what it is. But the 6'6" quarterbacks and above, obviously, you got to include the Brock Osweilers of the world. I guess Tyree Jackson. I guess Tyree Jackson counts. But when you get that high, your eyes can get read by the DBs. It's hard for you to look off. It's hard for you to kind of disguise exactly what it is that you're doing. But it's weird because 6'5" is just an inch shorter, but it doesn't seem to have the same effect. We'll see. Or not we'll see. Just something that I've noticed throughout time, and that's something I'm thinking about with Trevor Lawrence and his height. We'll see what he measures out to. He's a great college quarterback. I like Justin Fields better, personally. Whatever. We'll see how that plays out. I do also wonder how much longer Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace can hang on. They got spanked on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. I was going to say this for the last one, but I got to get this out of the way because it hurts, and I don't want to talk about it much longer. Like I already talked about earlier, I wrote about it for Last Word on Pro Football, that this has been kind of a confluence of all the worst of the most recent Bears eras, from really not even recent, going back to the Wani eras of the aimlessness, right? The poor drafting, poor decisions, free agency and cap-wise, the inability to get the offense settled in coordinators with that's like the Lovie Smith and Dick Duran era. And the ineffectiveness of the offense, just flat out ineffectiveness. That's late, the second year of the Trestman era. Like, dude, you got everything. And then you get the pressers where they're a little bit more open now. But for a while there, you were getting some John Foxian level, kind of not mumbling, but nonsensical. You know what? What are we talking about here? I actually tweeted out, again, follow me on Twitter at Josh G. Buck, that we quickly approach, and kind of we're here. Let me stop acting like we're not there yet. We're already flat in the middle of, or squarely in the middle of, Jim Boylan territory in terms of Matt Nagy's press conferences, where he's just talking in circles. He's not saying much of anything. There was a tweet released earlier that said that he was, I put a challenge out to all these guys to have some pride and understand what we're up against. Dude, what? Nope, dude, I don't. What? Why is that even in the public? Why is that even out there in the public? Why? What benefit does it have being public? That's not. I won't call it passing the buck to your players. When clearly there's been a lot of times when you've been out coached, sir. You and your staff. Chuck, looking at you. You can adjust the coverage. It's okay. You can bring the guys up. It's okay. You can send the house a little early. I know you're leery of making a mistake because that crap offense can't make up for you. But back to you, man. This is unraveled so fast that the only way out of it is to pull the string the rest of the way. You're not stitching this thing back together. There's no letting Ryan Pace pick a third head coach. Now, granted, maybe John Fox wasn't necessarily his pick, right? But do you want him to take another crack in the first round of the draft, let alone at trying to pick a quarterback? They've gotten one all three ways and have failed all through draft, trade, and free agency. All three have sucked. They're not just bad, they sucked. It's a problem. It's a problem, and they got the Lions next week. If you lose to Detroit, because Detroit's fired up because they got a new interim head coach, and you lose to Detroit, your last little brother in the division, Matt Nagy. That's the last one. You lose that game. I don't know how. 41-25 shellacking, and it wasn't that close. It wasn't even near that close. 15 points in garbage time. Really, the rest of it was all but 3 points in garbage time. To be perfectly honest with you, pitiful for a charter franchise of the NFL. Absolutely pitiful. Sad day to be a Bears fan. Sad time to be a Bears fan. Not much roster changes coming. I think it's more likely you get a Bulls style revamping of the front office and coaching staff, and maybe some key moves, and then they say we're going to try to figure it out with this group while we work through this cap situation, because Robert Quinn ain't going nowhere. Jimmy Graham probably ain't going nowhere. Nick Foles ain't going nowhere. Some of those defensive guys, if you're keeping those guys, you might as well keep some of those other, so it's gonna be rough. They won't bottom out, but it's gonna be rough, you guys. We're looking at another probably 3-13 after this one. I think I got to see what their opponents are for next year, but 3-13 seems about realistic if they keep progressing at this rate. And they lose Allen Robinson. They will have first round draft picks, so that will help. We'll see how the draft falls, and who knows what free agency works out. And Cap Guru comes in and maybe finds some loophole in somebody else's deal. They rework some other bonuses or whatever. I don't know. But it's going to be tight, and it's not going to be pretty on the field for a while. It's just not. They've painted themselves into a corner here that they can't get out of, and I don't see an exit anytime soon. So, moving on to other news, Raheem Morris has the Atlanta Falcons 5-1 under his leadership. That is incredible because under Dan Quinn they were a complete ass. So that's quite the turnaround. Hopefully he gets another chance to be head coach. Remember, he had the shot with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was young. He went from being a DB coach to head coach, a la Mike Tomlin. That was much the thinking behind making him the head coach down there in Tampa. Didn't work out. Josh Raymond was not a great quarterback, but if he gets a chance to resurface, as he should really get a look here. Obviously, he's got these guys playing well. Competition plays a factor in this, obviously, but still, 5-1 is 5-1. If I said it for the Bears, I gotta say it for the Falcons too. But I definitely want to see Raheem Morris get another shot as a head coach. See a more seasoned guy now too in this league. Wonder what he's learned from his time in between potential head coaching gigs. The Saints and the Broncos competed without quarterbacks. The Broncos, like I told you earlier, had ran Kendall Hinton out there, practice squad player elevated just before the game because all four of their quarterbacks had been ruled out with COVID. The Saints have been running Taysom Hill out there. Taysom Hill has not thrown a touchdown in his 2 starts. He has thrown an interception, and run in touchdowns, but has not thrown for a touchdown. There is no quarterback in that game. There was no quarterback in that game. There was no quarterback in that. It's making sure that we're clear about that because, fantasy purposes. Anyway, the Broncos ran 32 times in that game. Oh my gosh. And then you had Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara combining for somewhere in the mid to high 20s. Murray going over the century mark. Kamara having kind of a down game, honestly, about 50 some odd yards. But Murray had a big day, 2 tugs as well. That was just a shellacking, 31-3 or something like that, as the Broncos couldn't get much of anything going, obviously, without a real quarterback on the roster. And to Hill's credit, he looked like a very capable quarterback capable enough quarterback or capable quarterback enough at the time. Probably both. Either way, they got through it, and that's all that matters for them. The San Francisco 49ers have crawled their way back into the playoff picture at 5-4 now after beating the Los Angeles Rams in LA. Listen, I've been talking about it. Rams are fool's gold, man. They're still the same thing. You catch teams at the right time, and you can look really good, but they're not. The Rams are not good. They look good against the Bears. That hasn't been hard to do this year. The Rams themselves, they'll have a lot of flaws. They haven't changed much. Goff hasn't changed much. And this is that division. That division's tough. The Niners are a tough team. They are resilient. They are without Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Bosa, but they did get Richard Sherman back. Deebo Samuel had a good game. No George Kittle there. They're depleted and still fighting. They got Raheem Mostert back. Like, Kyle Shanahan is a hell of a coach, man. He might be back. He might get coach of the year for this one because this is incredible what he's got them doing when you consider where they've come from and how far back they've managed to be. Again, 5-4 isn't great shakes, but or I'm sorry, I think it's 6-4. I got that all sorts of mixed up. But the fact that they are 5-6, sorry, the fact that they are 5-6 is incredible because they were seriously dead to rights not that long ago. They've actually won. Other than that Saints game, of course, that they got, that was not pretty. I gotta scroll here to find the schedule. I always get that mixed up. Anyway, they beat the Rams 23-20. They lost to the Saints, obviously, but then they lost to the Packers. See, they're still there. They're just hanging around because 3 straight losses should have taken them out of it. But that division is beating up on itself. It's cannibalizing itself. I knew I was mixing that up. That's why I had to make sure I double looked it up because I didn't want to come out here and say that they had been on a roll lately, and they have not been. 17 points against the Packers, 13 points against the Saints. They come back with that 23 against the Rams, and that's why I just say the Rams just ain't that. This is the Seahawks division. The Rams are a nice team. What they do is kind of cute. They get a lot of points. They can make some things happen, but they're not up there with the teams that can be physical and play defense and kind of rough you up. The Niners allowed 37 points to the Seahawks. This was in Seattle, obviously, but this was in LA. So, what's the excuse? They swept LA this season. 24-16 the last time they met. So, 5-6, but they are still right there in the playoff hunt, and Kyle Shanahan is doing a hell of a job keeping this team together amid all these injuries and all the stuff that's been going on with them throughout the entire season. Speaking of all the stuff going on throughout the entire season, having some major issues, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going through a thing right now. Your boy Tom Brady's out here tweaking through some more picks. He's out here looking extremely reckless, extremely average, in prime time no less. That's the part about it that I really don't think makes sense to me because, guys of Brady's ilk are supposed to elevate their gameplay when the lights are the brightest, and he has been anything but. As the Buccaneers actually made it look like a game against the Chiefs 24-27, but this was due to a late little push that they had going on. It was 20-7 at halftime, and then 27-10 after 3 quarters. So 14 fourth quarter points allowed the Buccaneers to make it look like it was a little bit better than it actually was. Like I said, Tom Brady did not do great. 27-41, 345, 3 touchdowns, but those 2 interceptions, and they just were not good. So I've been talking about the Nick Foles heave ball, right? And I said Russell Wilson has been doing, but that's just like that high rainbow, and it's supposed to be a jump ball, I guess, but it just looks bad. Brady's getting picks that are just, he's throwing bad passes. He's throwing bad passes. Stuff that you don't know what he's seeing. You wonder what he's doing. He's struggling. He doesn't have the great protection, but he's making bad decisions, and that's what's so weird about it. He's making bad choices. He's making Mitchell Trubisky choices. The Buccaneers blocking isn't great, but to see Brady, again, make the decisions that he's been making is what's been most confounding about all of this, but the good news for them, Gronk had 100 yards. Yay. Hooray, hurrah. I'm bearing the lead here because the big story of this game was Tyreek Hill having 269 yards. Yeah, 269. He had 200 yards at halftime. 269 in the first quarter. He had 200 yards. Anyway, finished with 269 yards, 3 touchdowns, 13 catches. The man was abusing Carlton Davis. I mean, abusing Carlton Davis. And quiet as kept, he has to be the number 1 overall pick in fantasy football next year, right? Has to be. He has to be. There's no way that you have the season that he's been having, the explosiveness that he has consistently now. We were doubting it, but he's consistently just doing this, and we're approaching Antonio Brown levels of production consistently. Now he's not going to get that. He's not going to drop them kind of bombs on people every day. But I mean, in terms of where you're going to get, you were expecting the big day and the medium days of disappointment, right? The 15-point days of disappointment for you, 20 disappointment for you. Yeah, man, it's a good spot to be in. That dude is good. and Tampa Bay found out, and Tampa Bay has got some issues to work out because, as you heard during the broadcast, it doesn't think there's much of a point to what they're trying to do. They're just running some plays. They're relying on a lot of their talent. Apparently, Tom Brady has been calling the Buccaneers offensive plays, according to Bruce Arians. Maybe that's to save Byron Leftwich. I don't think so. I think that's definitely telling the truth, because why wouldn't you allow Brady to bring over what he likes from New England and try to incorporate that into the Tampa offense? Unfortunately, they can't run what they were running in New England. That's become abundantly clear. So maybe, just maybe, you should go to Tom and say, listen, let's run some of the stuff that we were comfortable with and try to get it to work out with our personnel. Now, granted, a lot of what Arians likes to do is deep downfield passing, and you heard during that broadcast the commentators saying that Brady's been doing that a lot more. So Tony Romo was commenting how, you know, people are ragging on Brady for not being great, but that's because he's going down the field a lot more. That's fine. But there has to be a happy medium, and I'm not putting it all on Brady. I'm putting it on Arians. So my point is that there has to be some way for them to come together on this and find a middle ground on how to work this offense out. Get together, work a scheme. Stop trying to make it one guy's in control over the other. Work together on this. And for Arians especially, for this to be the area that's a problem is weird, because he's got the reputation as the quarterback guru, and that's not what we're seeing right now, because damn it, look at what's happening. Brady has been, I don't want to say absolutely horrible, but he's looked every bit of his age, right? Every bit of 42 years old right now. 42, 43. Every bit of his early 40s right now. And unfortunately, there's nothing going to fix. There's not a fix coming, because the offensive line of the Buccaneers is what it is. The weapons are great, and I thought that this would be what he needed to make it, you know, be a better. I thought that would be the difference between the Buccaneers and staying in New England, would be the weaponry, and apparently that's been wrong. Brady has thrown back-to-back picks in 2 games now. He's in 3 of the last 4. He has multiple interceptions. 3 interceptions against New Orleans back in week 9. This is just not good. What are you gonna do though? Because again, he's not gonna improve. He's gonna get older. He's just gonna deteriorate even further. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's bad down there. They had the pass rush. The defense, I think, has been the worst. Maybe it's because the offense can't sustain anything, which I understand full well. Oh, they just got to get that right, man. They got to get that right. That's a disappointment even for me, and I'm not even really that big of a fan. That's disappointing. The Eagles scored 17 points, 3rd time in a row. Carson Wentz threw an interception. Dude, so check this out. Carson Wentz has got some of the wildest stats I've seen in quite some time here. He actually has more games with multiple interceptions than he has games with 0 interceptions. He only has 2 games with no interceptions. One of those games, though, came with a fumble. So he only has 1 game without a turnover this entire season. He threw his 15th interception on Monday night. That's his league leading. That's now 19 turnovers. He also has more interceptions than, I think, 3 teams at this point. All but 3 teams at this point. Still didn't see Jalen Hurts, though. So all that was fluff, huff, and stuff for nothing. But, damn it, Jalen Hurts' time might be coming. And you know what, though? That's not an indictment of Carson Wentz. That's just saying that this team is going nowhere, and maybe they should see what they have, because they ain't going nowhere. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. Switching gears over to the NBA, and be sure to check back with on Thursday as we talk about the playoff picture and the Week 13 matchups that have been rearranged thanks to the Wednesday afternoon affair between the Ravens and Steelers. That's going to be shifting up a lot of stuff around it. But switching gears over to the NBA, Evan Turner from Wisconsin has retired after 10 years in the NBA and will be joining the Boston Celtics as an assistant coach. I actually have a running joke. It's an inside joke, but every time I see Evan Turner's name or he's mentioned, I say, who? Never heard of him. Chicago kid, had some beef with Derrick Rose back in the day, some stuff, you know how it is, whatever. So I took that side. I took Rose's side for no reason. And that's stuck ever since. And now there's no ill will, no animosity, but every time I see that name, I have to say it. Who? Never heard of. Wish him luck on his new career. Congratulations. That's some cool stuff to be able to do that. And he also said that he wanted to fight Jake Paul after Jake Paul knocked out Nate Robinson. And listen, I'm not a fan of Jake Paul. I wanted Nate Robinson to win the fight. I don't think he was going to knock him out. I didn't see that happening. But what I will say is Nate did not represent very well. I don't know. First of all, I don't think he should have done it in the first place. The dude's got youth on you. He's got size, and he's got experience in this arena. Nate, you were a 3-time dunk champion, one of the best members of the Bulls bench mob ever. You've been a fan favorite everywhere you've been. That was not the right call, and your circle betrays you, sir. Whoever the hell let Nate Robinson get in the ring and do that crap is not his friend. Also, Jake Paul will probably not be out here bragging about beating up a dude who's 5'9" and 40, whatever. Nate was talking to, they was all cool, and it was about publicity, and that's what he does. He's now talking about trying to fight Conor McGregor. But, yeah, Nate. Oh, Nate. That was rough, man. That was hard to see. He was out for a little bit, too. It wasn't quick. He was on the ground for a minute. You've seen the Nate Robinson challenge. If you see T Grizzly's challenge, potato body. That's a weird one. T Grizzlies was a weird looking one, but you've seen it all over social media. Now everybody just laid out on the ground because Nate Robinson was stretched out on the floor, walked into a punch. Maybe you've seen it, but there's a clip of Michael B. Jordan filming Creed, and his sparring partner, his co-actor in the scene is, they're practicing the punch, they're lining it up, and Jordan turns the wrong way at the wrong time or adjusts somehow the wrong way and catches the punch, cleanly right on the chin and goes down. That's exactly how Nate Robinson looked. Exactly how he looked. I had a flashback and I wasn't even there. Yeah. Stephen Curry gets his own shoe brand. Under Armour has decided to gift Curry with his own brand, a la the Jordan brand, a la the Shaq brand, a la Kobe. Not really Kobe. Yeah, a la Kobe. Cool. That's dope. That's dope for Steph, a dude who a lot of teams didn't want, said he'd never make it. Pundits criticized him for it. Said he would be a washout because of the early injuries. Golden State saw a lot in him. Obviously, we know about the championships and the MVPs. He's now been rewarded with the shoe. That being said, them joints is ugly. I'm not a basketball player, though, and so I've heard that they're comfortable, but them joints is ugly. It's the heel for me. It's the back part. It's real. Ugly is probably too harsh, but that back is too high up, and I'm not a fan. But congratulations, Steph. And I'm sure there's some kid somewhere, and again, probably some hoopers who are out there very much appreciative of the fact that Steph's getting his own brand, some more dedicated resources to that style of shoe. And then lastly, we got to talk about it, man. Bleacher Report put up their power rankings for the NBA season that's coming up. And while we could go through the entire list, I really have one problem and one problem only, and that's with them having the Los Angeles Clippers at 2. How in the world does a second round exit get ranked 2 for power rankings in the offseason, the preseason power rankings, when they haven't done nearly as much as a lot? Dude, are you 2? You 2? I don't that one, that might be the most confusing thing I've seen in quite some time, because again, a second round exit who went 7 games, yes, but 7 games with a team that was supposed to be a year away. This is supposed to be a title contender, mind you. You got the Eastern Conference champion at 3 and 2. I think what you meant was second round exit, not 2. Disrespectful to, I think, a lot of teams, Denver included, because I'm not sure how They got far. How does the team? Dallas already beat them without. That's so disturbing. That's such a disturbing pick. That's bad. That's a bad call. Sorry, bad call. Should have been Miami. If you're gonna just do it off of GP, and then Milwaukee, and then Denver, I would have taken Milwaukee over Miami. But I'm not putting the Clippers at 2. They don't deserve 2. They don't. I don't know if they crack the top 5. They might crack 5 off of their name recognition, but 2, insane. This is why people don't take Bleacher Report serious. Insane. That's gonna do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Joshy Buck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com. Read the stuff, Last Word on Pro Football, PippinAintEasy.com, and of course, Clocker Sports. And until the very next time, man, you already know what it is. It's the sound of the horns. I'm gone.